Hello and welcome to the cesspool, and welcome back to the 25 Days of Christmas. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year's, Happy Holidays, whatever you celebrate, I hope it is a good one. And we're back, and we're not looking at the floor. The floor is here, as always, but we're not looking at it. Normally, yes, I know we're looking at something that's on the floor, but we're looking a little bit more at the bottom of the shelf, actually. We got the Dell PC in the back, we got the Animusic DVDs back there. We got the Mario Party bucket, the Coke can, the classics, really. There's a little baseball in the corner back there. It's from Commerce Bank. Anyway, different background, but that's just because what we're talking about is a little bit too big to simply, have on the ground. So I'm a bit further back. It's a little bit weird for me to film this, so pardon the odd hand gestures. I'm really going to try to make this work, but what I care about more is what we're talking about, which is the small replica arcade cabinets that, there are some really small ones that, companies have made. There's like the tiny arcades, the keychain ones, all that. Those really small ones, this big, between like 10 and 30 bucks. But we're not talking about those. We're talking about the premium replica ones. And we're not talking about, the 3/4 cabinets either. No. We're talking about Replicade and quarter arcades. These, scale-wise, quarter arcades are obviously quarter the size, 1/4 the size. And the Replicades are actually 1/6 the size. So there's your difference there. And, if I put my hand up to it, again, this is a little weird. Put my hand up to it, this is the size of I have small hands, but here's the size of my hand on the quarter arcade. Here's the size of my hand on the Replicade. These are made by different companies, and they're very interesting little things. The ones that I have are also kind of odd examples. Quarter Arcades is mostly known for their Namco stuff. Pac-Man, Galaga, that kind of thing. While Replicade, interestingly enough, is known more for their Atari games and some of the more obscure titles, specifically Atari games. Like, they must have gotten the Atari license, and, obviously Quarter Arcade's got the Namco license. And they've done other stuff, Replicade as well. They've done... I'm going to get into that in a minute. But yes, that's kind of what they're known for. But they've both done other things. The ones that I have are, again, odd examples because I have the Polybius unit, which is obviously an arcade game that never existed. And then I have Missile Command, which is an Atari game, but it's not like a traditional Atari game. The controls are very odd. But I'll get into that in a minute. So... These have been around for a while. I've had the Polybius unit for a long time, and the Missile Command one I've now had for a few years as well. They're usually really limited. Like, they'll go out of print. There's maybe 10,000 of them. They roughly nowadays they're costing more. We're looking at more like $200 a cabinet. Back in the day, we were looking at $150, $140, something like that. Between the two of them. It was in that general area. I want to say Quarter Arcade was more, but in my opinion, Replicade puts a little more effort. I give the Polybius unit a pass because there are some pretty cool details, but for the most part, they're both pretty accurate recreations of the cabinets. I'll get into why I think Replicade is maybe more... there's a little more detail, but simply from a size perspective, the Quarter Arcade wins, without a doubt. For one, it's bigger, it's a little better to play. Now again, I've played on these before. This one I can't, because Polybius is not an actual game. It is kind of an internet story it's one of the more famous video game horror stories from really before the time of creepypastas or anything like that. It was made as kind of, a fun little unit. And it's really cool that they did that because you wouldn't really think that they would, but they did. And again, they offered it at a discount because it's not an actual game. You can't play it. All of the other cabinets from Quarter Arcades, you can play them. They're fully functional versions of the games. They run flawlessly. Same with Replicade. All of them run flawlessly. They're 1/6 scale replicas of the cabinet, and they absolutely play the original game. What they did with this guy was they basically made him a charging bank or a power bank for all of them. I believe that it has 10 USBs on the back here, and you have to have them hooked up. So this guy's always hooked up, and on the back here, he has all of these USBs. It's a little door here, and you got all that. So you can hook up all your other ones, and you only got one wire. They'll run forever. And yeah, it's pretty cool. But yeah, it'll just run this little screen forever, the little attraction screen, how they would do it. Same with the Replicades, they do the same thing. Obviously with Polybius, it has to be, made up. But they base it off of the story from, the different versions of the story that people have told over the years, obviously. And with any of their other units, it's just the original arcade ROM, or a version of the original arcade ROM, so it's just going to play the original game. And the nice thing about the Replicades as well is that they run on a little battery, so you can plug them in with USB-C, and this guy's been running on the same charge for a while now. But, either way, they work pretty well. I mean, you're going to have this on a table either way. And they both, I have to say, they look awesome when you have, multiple of them together. Because these are, scale replicas. They're not like some of the other, fake little, either the really tiny ones or the 3/4 size. These really just do stuff. It looks perfect. Then they have little accessories. You can get, accurate 80s arcade flooring and coin machines and all that kind of stuff. It's awesome. It's really cool what they do with these. But now I'm going to get into the games. What are the differences between the games? Namco Classics over here on Quarter Arcades, with some exceptions, but really big heavy hitters. All the mainstream stuff, Galaga, Pac-Man, Dig Dug, all that fun stuff. And then, yeah, with Replicade, we're looking at stuff that's a little bit more obscure. We're looking at most all of the Atari games, Centipede, Missile Command, all of them, all the classics, and Asteroids. Space Invaders, I believe, was actually on Quarter Arcades. I may be wrong about that. And Tempest, everything like that. All the classic Atari titles are over here on Replicade. So they obviously got the license for Atari, while Namco went with Quarter Arcades. That's cool. That's awesome. But then, Replicade starts doing some really cool stuff. We got not only Space Ace, but we got Dragon's Lair, and those were absolutely amazing. There's a lot of more obscure stuff that ended up over here. And the more interesting thing is the control schemes. A lot of these games, and Missile Command included, Atari and most arcade manufacturers, they didn't have a standard control scheme. It wasn't just a button and a couple of sticks, or vice versa. They had, your working trackball, which absolutely moves. They had weird buttons. They had all kinds of stuff. And Replicade made them work, which is really, really awesome. And, I've played through this a little bit, and it works really well. The trackball in this, as well as in, some of the other Atari games, it works really, really well. The other thing that's kind of cool about these, and it's debatable, some people like it, some people don't, is that the screen is kind of curved, or there's like a magnifier. It makes it kind of look like it's a CRT, a curved CRT screen, when compared to the Quarter Arcades is just kind of standard. And, neither of these are accurate current examples of what they're producing, but it's a decent example. The Polybius unit is like a direct just reskin of the Namco cabinets. So it gives you, this is the size that, a Pac-Man or Galaga, or, that's what they would, this is the size that you would get. And This is exactly, you know, all of the Atari cabinets were all different, and they made every single different type of cabinet. And you know, the even with Missile Command, we got like the prototype cabinet where it has like the very tall marquee board and, you know, some different graphics and stuff. Same game, but it's really, really cool that they do that kind of stuff. And we just don't see that really with Quarter Arcade that much, which is a shame because they have licensed to some really, really cool stuff and some of the biggest names in arcade gaming. But I think Replicade for enthusiasts is probably a better choice. I'm gonna bring them a little bit closer to the camera, and we can talk about each of them, these particular units. Okay, so now we're just looking at the Replicade unit, and you know, we take a look and we zoom her out a little bit and bring it a bit closer to the camera. So with this unit, yeah, there is that kind of curved screen, which has, you know, some people like it, some people don't, but just look at the detail. So obviously lit marquee, same with the Quarter Arcade, it's going to be the same, but we have lit coin slots. All the buttons are present, and they're even lit when appropriate. All the detail, all the text is legible. Again, here's that trackball, and turning it to the side, here's that gorgeous, gorgeous artwork, which is present on the Quarter Arcade units as well. On the back, all the original, you know, Atari labels are present, and then, you know, you have your controls up here, your power button, your volume, and then your charge port. And then they even have like a fake little, you know, coin like retrieval section for the maintenance. Actually, the coin retrieval is on the front, which actually opens, which is pretty awesome. And it even has like the little LEDs. Yeah, again, that keeps the buttons lit. And pressing the LEDs is actually what starts the game. Or, I'm sorry, it inputs the coin that, and then you would hit, you know, one player, and then it starts the game. And just real quick here, we'll put on the volume, and I'm just going to play the game real quick. It's a little bit hard to play while holding. It's definitely a two-handed game. But you get the idea. You know, it's a really, really cool little thing. I'm going to turn off the volume because it's going to keep playing the game until I die. But it's a really, really cool little unit. These things are awesome. I really, really, you know, there's so much love put into these little cabinets. And it's cool to see. It really, really is. I'm having trouble finding. Again, this is a little bit of a weird setup. You gotta bear with me a little bit. But yes, super, super cool. And again, now we're gonna move to the Quarter Arcade, take a look, just see what's there. Because again, Polybius is not a real game. But we will, you know, judge it accordingly. And we will give the benefit of the doubt that the game runs fine, etc., if it was a real game. Alright, and now we got Polybius here, all alone. And I'm just going to zoom in a little bit on what is present. So Polybius was, you know, in the story, it was a very simple cabinet. It was always set, you know, one button, one stick. That was it. And they're represented here. This is how it would look on the cabinets that function as well. It's the same size. So you get like a grasp of how big, you know, your finger is going to be on the buttons. It's totally playable. It's more playable than the Replicade. That's the one thing I give it. The size of these units is way, way above and beyond more playable than the Replicade. That's their biggest flaw, is how small they are. Some of the other stuff that is present here, and probably the coolest little thing, is these were most famously, you know, supposedly they were, you know, set up by the government in the city of Portland, Oregon. So you have your, you know, Portland, Oregon registration stickers and your city of Portland stickers, all that fun, cool stuff. Really, really basic coin retrieval, because these were said to be extremely simple looking, you know, in the story. And I'm gonna zoom her out just a bit. Polybius marquee is lit. Again, really, really simple on the side, but, you know, this would be your accurate Pac-Man Galaga. Dig Dug, all that, the accurate artwork would be present. These are made out of a little bit more of like a, wood-ish material, which is kind of cool. It gives it a bit of quality. Here's that storage again for all of the power banks. And down here at the way bottom is your power port and the power cord and the volume for the unit. It makes some weird little noises. Not going to keep that going. It's supposed to be, hypnotizing you. That's the story. If you want to know the history of Polybius, you can definitely look it up. It is a very, very interesting little thing. But that's the quarter arcades. They're just a little bit simpler. They're a little bit more sturdy, you may even say, with being, maybe a stronger material. But, you got to give it to the Replicade. It really, really does kind of blow it out of the water in terms of the quality of the detail included. Between the two of them, the Replicade is a higher quality product. And if you want to use these, maybe go with the quarter arcade. Or if you like, the Namco games, I absolutely get it. I own the Polybius unit because Replicade wasn't going to make that. And I absolutely, I give them a lot of credit for making, a Polybius unit. And if I really wanted to, any of the Namco games, which I totally considered buying, Galaga or Pac-Man, because I would really play those. And that's kind of why I got, Missile Command. That's one of my favorite arcade games. That was my dad's favorite growing up. And, he's still, if we ever find one, which is rare, but every once in a while we will. And, we'll play a couple rounds on Missile Command. They're both classics. He's also great at Galaga, which is another one that I, again, would have loved to own. But, the point is that these are very preference-based. If you're more of a collector, you're looking for the accurate representation of these arcade games, I have to say go with the Replicade unit. But if you want something that maybe is more of a casual experience, being the Namco games, they tend to be the ones that everybody knows. The quarter arcade is not a bad choice. It's a quality product. It is an accurate replica, if missing a little bit of the detail and maybe even the slightly more nuanced niche interest group of the 1/6 scale units, the Replicades. But, these are great units. They're both super high quality, and I couldn't recommend either of them enough. They're different. When you buy one, you're looking for something over the other. If you're just, you want a cool thing on your shelf that you can play, go with this guy. If you're a collector, you really love specific obscure, or not even obscure, but just slightly more obscure arcade games other than Pac-Man and Galaga, go with this guy. You're going to appreciate all the little details on either of these units, but with this, the detail is everything. With this, the playability is everything. These are absolutely playable. I play this a lot. It's a lot of fun. But this is definitely going to be a better playing experience. If you want a, little replica arcade cabinet that you can play of your favorite little Namco games, or even some of the other, I'm not 100% sure everything that they've done, but both of them have done different companies other than Namco and Atari. Those are the bigger names that I can think of. Go with this guy. This is a more fun, simple experience. This is a little bit more for the niche collectors. And, they retail around the same price. Are they a little pricey? Now I'd say yes. Now that we're in the $200 range or more, they're a little pricey for what they are. They're really, really cool, though. And if you love these old school games, like I clearly do, I can't recommend picking them up enough. They are in limited quantity, and finding them secondhand, you're looking at, $300 above, which is really ridiculous. And it's a shame because I always wanted the Tempest unit, and finding that online, that was one of the earliest of the Replicades. Holy shit, those things are going for $400 now. Same with the quarter arcades. It's hard to, I don't believe they're making a Galaga unit anymore, which is making the secondhand ones really expensive because it's Galaga. I would love to own one, but I'm not going to spend that kind of money. So, yeah, these are different products. They're for the same general niche, but they're different enough to where you can warrant buying both of them, which is what I've done. So that's basically it. That's my little small replica arcade collection of 2. One example from each of the big manufacturers that make these things. And yeah, that's my little comparison. I hope you enjoyed the video. As always, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year's, Happy Holidays. Whatever you celebrate, I really do hope that is a good one. I'm so thankful for everybody for sticking around through all these videos. We're starting to wind down to the end. I've got some bigger projects planned for these last few episodes. It's not just going to be the floor. I have a couple big ones leading up to Christmas. I hope you enjoy those. I hope you enjoyed this video. I don't know when the next one will be, unless you're watching in order, where I will see you tomorrow. But in that case, other than that, I don't know when the next video will be, but I will see you guys then.